You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
All right, everybody. That music means it's time once again for Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old network where we welcome on guests, usually from throughout the world of options and derivatives, and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listener. Every once in a while, we like to flip the script, open up the sessions a little bit, talk about some other things that are in and around the periphery of options and derivatives. Going to do just that today. And my next guest to help me do just that is Joe Hernandez. He is the founder and CEO of the Chicago Blockchain Project, aka he is Disruption Joe. Joe, welcome to the Options Insider Radio program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
And Joe, as we are wont to do with all of our first timers, give us a little bit of an overview of your background in the technology space and how you found your way to doing this. And of course, I'm a fan of a good moniker, so I have to know at the top of the show here, where does Disruption Joe come from? Who or what are we disrupting?
Well, I was going to be Blockchain Joe, but I thought that was a really bad idea because if the whole thing, if the whole shit fell apart, then I could still move on to like AI or IoT or something like that. But I'm just interested in forward technology and changing the way we do things.
So you didn't want to lock yourselves down to one piece of technology then?
Yeah, I didn't want to get stuck. Well, I guess Joe's gone.
Well, let's start there then. Give us a little bit of your background in the technology space and how you found your way into the ever popular world of blockchain these days.
Yeah, I was a computer science major and then switched over to management information systems when I realized how much staring at a screen I'd have to do. And I've been interested ever since and really never went down the programming path. But I decided a couple of years ago, I was introduced to Bitcoin by a friend, said, check this out. Why not? Looked at it every day for 2 weeks. It didn't do anything. Then about 6 months later, he told me about Ethereum. And I said, well, the Bitcoin didn't do anything. What am I supposed to be excited about here? He started telling me something about smart contracts. I didn't know what he was saying. And he probably wasn't explaining it well. But he did tell me go back and look at the Bitcoin. It had gone up like 3 times during that point. And I said, I got to know why this would happen. What's going on behind it? So I went to YouTube, of course, and found a video where they explained the system behind Bitcoin and Ethereum and this effect that the more people that participate, the more value there is per participant. And that's a system you don't see often in much of anything except like early stage on social networks where there's really strong network effects. So you apply a network effect to building a digital currency, all of a sudden you have something really, really powerful. Ever since then, I've just been head down, studying, learning everything I can.
So that was it. That lured you to the dark side of crypto and then blockchain, and you've been hooked ever since?
Oh, yeah, down the rabbit hole. Every meetup that we do for Chicago Blockchain Project, I ask the question, who here has lost sleep studying about this thing? And that's a crazy question to ask. Imagine any other subject topic I'd ask that about. And I usually get a quarter of the room. That's why they're there. They needed to meet other people in person who are as obsessed with this thing. And that's where I started Chicago Blockchain Project. It started as a meetup, and my girlfriend and my brother were sick of me talking about Bitcoin, so I had to go and start a meetup to talk to other people about it.
It is funny. It does seem to have a little bit of that zealotry effect, I think, for lack of a better term. I know a lot of people in the derivatives trading world who have been lured to the dark side of it, and they can't stop talking about it, kind of like you, and they trade it, and a lot of them have segued out of maybe options full-time trading into mining and trading of the derivatives and the currencies out there. So you're right. It does once people once it gets its hooks into you, it seems like there's no escape.
Yeah, no, there absolutely isn't. Once you get into it, there's just so much to learn about it. It's an interesting thing because when you're creating scarce digital assets, there's a never-ending runway. Traditionally, we're looking at holding our value in something physical. Now we have this opportunity to create the representation of the value digitally, and that means it's an infinite, an infinite runway that we have here. So what are the possibilities? You go down that rabbit hole for a long time, specifically because it's infinite.
Yeah, that is essentially how that tends to play out. You mentioned earlier your Chicago blockchain project. Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of that, why you started that, what it is, and then we'll get into the big event you have coming out in a little bit.
Yeah, we started up a little over a year ago. Like I said, it was a meetup. We'd have some people get together. We would talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, some other, cryptocurrency was kind of the thing that got people in at that time. And especially since it was a lot of people that weren't very technical and didn't have a lot to do with it in the beginning. We just wanted to learn and see, can we make a little bit of money off this thing? And then realize the information is coming at us so fast that there's no way anybody can keep up with this. So why don't we trade off and you study this, I'll study that part, and then we'll come back next week and share it with each other. And then we realized, if it could be valuable, if you can make money off it, how are we going to split the profits if we can sell all this information someday? And we started figuring out, okay, there's a system that we're just contributing to, but we all should get our own value from it. It's basically a company that's nobody's running, but we have systems and processes in place. And that's grown to the point where now we're putting together this company. We have like 27 people working with Chicago Blockchain Project, contributing value and trying to put together an event that is bringing an international crowd to Chicago to put us on the map as a forefront worldwide in the technology.
It's interesting. I could speak from experience as someone who's put together an event or two in his day that they do kind of creep up on you. And you start with some small plan, and then next thing you know, you have a multi-day, multi-extravaganza with people flying in and all sorts of craziness, and it could become intimidating to say the least. But let's get into the event itself. It is coming up on August 24th and 25th here in Chicago. I'm pleased to say I will be speaking on the latter session there on the day, Saturday, August 25th, there down there at Navy Pier. If you're familiar with Chicago, I'll be talking about the intersection of kind of my two worlds there these days, which is, of course, the options and derivatives side and crypto. We're going to talk about the future of crypto derivatives, what's in store. I know a lot of you out there talking to our audience are gung-ho, looking for more things to trade in the crypto derivative space. So we're going to talk about all of that and a lot more on Saturday at 12:30 at Navy Pier. So if you want to come down and join us, that'd be great. But Joe, my panel is just one session of many here at this event. Give us an overview. I mean, obviously there are a lot of blockchain events out there these days. In fact, I think there's one a couple of weeks before this one. So it seems like it's almost inescapable. Blockchains coming at you left, right, and center. What do you guys have going on? Aside from my panel, obviously, what do you guys have going on over there in the land of the Voice of Blockchain event that really is going to set it apart?
Yeah, what happened over this last year with this ICO boom, because people could make money off it, a lot of the conferences started showing up and they were doing this pay to pitch thing. The vendors are paying $20,000 to pitch and the people are paying $1,000 for tickets. We said, let's make a market under that, come in lower cost and curate all of the talks. So I turned down a shameful amount of money from people who wanted to just get up there and pitch something, and actually took the time. We have 3 stages of curated talks. So, we're kicking off the whole event with Rumi Morales, even though think about Outlier Ventures coming to Chicago and this convergence of the supply chain manufacturing and markets of old days, and now it's IoT, blockchain, and AI. And then we're going to have some Chicago staples there. One of my favorite talks is Edmund Moy, the 38th director of the U.S. Mint, is going to talk with Matt Rozak, who recently released Metronome, which is a digital currency product, and we're going to talk about minting currencies and the future of it. All these talks have been curated. We have Brian Jenkins, who was at Tiananmen Square reporting, and Kuwaiti Freedom. He was second on scene in Waco, Texas, Seoul, South Korea. He's going to be reporting the real news with an interview with Brittany Kaiser. She's a Cambridge analytical whistleblower. And all through it, we have vertical use cases. What are they doing in healthcare, gaming, gambling, all of these innovation side things. And then the fintech and markets, of course, the derivatives. We have a few different derivative products. We were just talking with guys from Decred that is building a decentralized exchange, and a woman named Maggie off AirSwap who are going to be there. And I'm interested to hear the traditional markets people having real conversations with the people who are building decentralized exchange and these new protocols and figuring out how this future is going to work and just find out what makes sense, what doesn't.
Yeah, that's certainly what attracted me to the event, and it has been fascinating. You're in Chicago here, and I've obviously been in the Chicago derivatives markets for a long time, and a lot of people in this space, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years, have been waiting for the next iteration of this space. Chicago has been the derivatives mecca since they really began in the late 20th century, and this has always been the equivalent of Silicon Valley for the derivatives trading world. And yet, that world is starting to spread. There's been a diaspora of traders away from Chicago in recent years as everything's gone electronic, and a lot of this mindset and skill set that was centralized here is starting to go away, and people were looking for the next thing, myself included, looking for the next thing that could really help cement this city's legacy at the forefront of this space again. And then now it seems like all of a sudden the crypto world has just landed in Chicago with just a deafening explosion, and people are it's really resonating with a lot of people out there, particularly those with the trading mindset who are bringing that risk management skill set, years of derivatives expertise to it, and all of a sudden they're seeing this new product category that has a lot of mind share, a lot of market share behind it. And people can rightfully, I think, dispute different issues of the underlyings and the validity of them they're in. That's certainly a conversation worth having. But you can't really dispute the tradability of these. And that's really what's attracted a lot of people in here. And all of a sudden, it's funny, in the last few years, we've seen Chicago really move to the forefront, particularly in the risk management trading side of crypto, particularly as it applies to the derivatives. So that's been fascinating to see evolve. And that's certainly some of that mindset, and indeed the interaction of the two is kind of what I'm looking to explore at our session of the event. Because I'm sure you'll agree, Joe, it is pretty a fascinating intersection, the kind of trading financial services mindset versus I guess you can call it, for lack of a better term, we just had our panel planning call earlier today, and they referred to it as the initial kind of anarchist crypto mind that got the whole thing going, and how these two worlds come together. It's kind of interesting, and they don't always mesh, which I think is kind of fascinating in and of itself. I think you'd agree.
It really is. There's a funny thing about how the far libertarian side and then the social good side kind of are finding this middle ground here. And it's interesting because with the way you can engineer the incentives of these protocols and how the new value is created, it actually allows for systems that I can't explain perfectly, but something along the lines of incentivized communism or compassionate capitalism. It kind of gives you the ability to balance out how the reimbursement of or the inflation of the currency that's created. Every 10 minutes in Bitcoin, some new Bitcoin comes out and it gets paid as this mining reward. Now, we can program, does that mining reward go to one miner who wins the race? Does it go out to a little bit to everybody, more like a parliamentary government where everybody gets a vote? And, even if you get 2% of the vote, well, 2% of the representatives are going to be shown. So we're seeing all these governance models play out as well. And a lot of the long-term bet is on which form of governance is actually going to out-evolve the other forms. And that's why it's all moving so fast, because we're seeing these technical models really evolve in front of us very fast, and it's hard to keep up.
It's funny you should mention libertarian. One of our panelists was saying how he first encountered this way back in 2010 when he first learned of Bitcoin. I think it was at a libertarian themed event. So that's kind of where you had to learn about this stuff back in the day. It was the fringe of the libertarian kind of anarchist tech movement that was creating this, and now it's spilled over into the mainstream. And now we have massive multi-day events here in Chicago, Joe. All about it.
It really was. Danny on our team, his name is Danny Johnson. He's definitely one of the most knowledgeable people in Chicago on crypto. He started his own coin in 2014, but he was a professional poker player for a decade. And in 2010, the government came and took away some people's money who were playing poker online. The problem with that was, like, what else other than having some of your money turned off is going to make you think, well, who has the off switch? What is the control of this? Is the off switch good or bad? But definitely there's a lot of guys who came out of like the poker scene as well as the cypherpunk crypto like anarchy thing or libertarian side as well.
Yeah, crypto has become this interesting melting pot of the trading world now, of course, and experienced people there, and the tech side, and then the kind of the fringe anarchist side, and the gambling. You name it. It's kind of it's a melting pot of a whole variety of mindsets, which I'm sure we'll see in practice on the 24th and 25th here in Chicago. And Joe, if our listeners are intrigued, they want to learn more about the event, or perhaps they want to go register for it for themselves, where should they go? What should they do?
I would tell them go to voiceofblockchain.com, check out the agenda of talks. There's everything's been curated. Every single talk is very high quality. And then get yourself a ticket. Use the code Options Insider with no space, all lowercase. Ticket price.
There you go. That is voiceofblockchain.com. You'll see it there, and you could click through to you'll see the event there. It's August 24th and 25th at Navy Pier in Chicago. If you do want to sign up, use that code Options Insider just so they know where you're coming from, so they can kind of track where you're listening from. They can probably see what you're interested in. I'll be down there on Saturday talking all sorts of derivatives, fun stuff as it applies to crypto. So stay tuned for that. And Joe, good to have you on. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person in a few weeks here in Chicago.
Thanks so much, Mark. Looking forward to meeting you as well.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Options Insider Radio. But stay tuned to the live feed. Stay tuned to the network. We got more fun stuff coming at you very soon.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.